Hey guys, it's Heather here with Underwater Panther. I am super exhausted. I got flooded out after work today. There's like a legit tsunami. I thought I ruined my whole entire computer, my life's work, all my books written on my computer, but it was not ruined, thankfully, by the crazy amount of rain that we had gotten. Anywho, I am like super tired also of my microphone's light. I hippie rigged it with an incense bag. That's what's going on with me. Anyways, I am on this political and religious topic heavily. I have been researching a lot. I am starting to look at it kind of like I do psychology based on functions, breaking down ethics and morality. And I have been studying ethics and morality and within personality types for many, many years now. And I am now starting to see the parallel with where our politics, like why our politics, our government, just what is going on. I've been down Charlie Kirk and the Turning Point USA rabbit hole. I looked into all the businesses, all the money flow. It's extremely dangerous to combine religion and politics, and it's just all over. It is all over. I'm starting to really see what is going on. I've been studying a lot about war history, where we've been, getting more in tune with current what is going on. I can't stand war and politics, but it's just so important to be more engaged. I feel like we really are at a late stage civilization, empire, whatever you want to call it. I feel like we are really late stage empire right now in America. We all see it. Things are very extreme. Things are getting more chaotic. Time is collapsing. It's just really wild. So I have tried to do this video multiple times, and I want to start it off different. So hopefully this will be my last take. So I want to start by talking about ethics versus morality, and then I'm going to get into how politics has taken over religion. And so politics, you can look at it like this, and this is kind of like where I started. So politics does deal with ethics, and religion traditionally deals with morality. But they're not the same thing, and they operate at different levels. So religion in the past has been a container for morality. You do not need religion for morality. That is not what I'm saying. I personally was raised private Catholic schooling. I'm extremely spiritual. I have a lot of Native American blood in me, and with my personality type, I question all of authority. And so I don't outsource, my morals and ethics. I am very studied, I am very embodied. And so, anyways, so what is morality? Deals with what you're asking yourself, what should I do? That's morality. It's more of your own internal right and wrong. So it's an internal lived embodiment. Morality is about right and wrong as experienced by a person or community. It lives in conscience, culture, family, community norms, spiritual or philosophical traditions. It asks, what is good? What is harmful? What kind of a person should I be? How should I treat others even when no one is watching? Religion historically held morality, not because morality requires religion, but because religion provided shared stories, rituals, accountability, meaning, and embodiment of values. So I do appreciate religion. It teaches good principles. I'm the type of person that studies all religions. I obviously combine many different systems together. I've been doing this for decades. And so I am not the type of person to solely be in one camp and be an extremist. It's just not the lens that I view life. So morality can't exist without religion, but religion was one of its main containers. So let's move on to ethics. Ethics questions: what do we do when values collide? External, collective, and constrained. So morality is, you can look at it like it's introverted feeling. Morality, it's introverted, it's inside of yourself. Ethics is a more external, dealing with other people. Extroverted feeling, if you want to look at it psychologically. Ethics is about decision making under constraint, especially when interests conflict, resources are limited, harm is unavoidable, and trade offs must be made. Politics operates here. Ethics ask, what is the least harmful option? Who bears the cost? How do we distribute risk fairly? And what rule works at scale, even if it is imperfect? Politics does not decide what is pure or good. It decides what is workable. That's why politics is inherently messy, compromised based, unsatisfying morally. We are all feeling that very deeply. I don't think many people have the words. And incomplete, and why it should never be sacred. I'm going to be repeating this in different ways over and over, so hopefully it lands. So, what is sacred? Morality is sacred. So, where it all went wrong. When morality collapsed, loss of trust in religion, community, and shared meaning. Politics absorbed the job by default. It is the largest system currently. It is containing morality, and that is the issue. So politics was suddenly expected to define good and evil, confer virtue, assign moral worth, provide belonging, and deliver salvation. That is a job it cannot do. So the result, policy becomes moral theater, disagreement becomes heresy, compromise becomes betrayal, opponents become evil, and governance stops working. Politics turned into a substitute religion. So, key here, morality is an internal compass. Ethics is an external collective navigation. Religion, when healthy, contains moral. It's the moral container. Politics, when healthy, is the ethical coordination. So you can look at it that way. Problems arise when morality is outsourced to the state. Ethics are treated like eternal truths. Politics is asked to provide meaning. So morality tells us what is right. Ethics helps us decide what to do when not everyone can get what they want. Politics should manage consequences, not define virtue. So this is not new. My next question is, where does this pattern repeat over time throughout history? So this is not new. It is a repeating pattern of what is going on currently in, I don't know, it's probably worldwide, honestly. I don't know. I'm in America, so I am obviously more aware of what's going on here. And it's just very, very apparent with everything that you dive into with Turning Point USA. I'm not saying it's a touchy, I understand it's very touchy. You just shouldn't brand religion into politics. It's extremely dangerous. I don't wish it upon anyone what happened with Charlie Kirk. He was a very well-versed man. I'm sure he had very good intentions. He was very young. He was talking to the younger crowd. I'm a millennial. And I don't know, I was raised Catholic, and I just have always been aware that you don't combine politics and religion. I am sure the younger generations are not really in the know or understanding of any of what I'm talking about. So I just think it's important to refresh our memories, refresh our minds with history. Where has this happened before? Where are we going? And feathering out why these two systems should not be combined. All right, so this is not new, it's a repeating pattern. It tends to appear when three things fail at once: moral institutions lose legitimacy, economic systems stop delivering stability, and cultural narratives stop making sense of lived reality. So, I've been doing a lot of videos on the generations and going through history of all of the pillars of society, economics. I'm really tired, so it's my brain's not functioning as quickly as I would like. So I'm just going through war, politics, economics, everything that has built our society over time from the silent generation. I am now currently working on the millennial generation, and so I am just like really refreshing my memory and learning a lot of things that I haven't really been aware of. I just cannot stand war and politics, but it is reality. So I am a very spiritual person coming to you with this information. So, anywho, when that happens, societies panic about meaning, and that is what's happening. And meaning looks for a new container. Politics is the biggest container left, so it gets overloaded. This pattern has shown up in late Roman Republic, late Imperial Rome, late medieval Europe, pre-revolutionary France, and the late Soviet Union. Different cultures, same mechanics. So what stage this represents? So we are not in the beginning of our civilization, obviously, and not in the middle. We are at a late stage coherence breakdown currently. Civilizations tend to move through phases. Foundational meaning with religion, myth that organizes life, authority feels legitimate. Number 2, institutional maturity, systems work, and ethics are procedural. Number 3, overexpansion, complexity increases, bureaucracy replaces wisdom. Number 4, meaning collapse. Institutions still exist but no longer feel true. We feel it. Number 5, belief capture. Politics absorbs morality. Ideology replaces conscience. Number 6, fragmentation. Parallel systems emerge. People disengage from the center. And number 7, resegmentation. New moral containers form and power decentralizes or resets. We are between fragmentation and resegmentation currently. That's why it feels chaotic and strangely lucid at the same time. Why it feels uniquely intense now. 3 accelerants make this cycle feel sharper than prior history. So, speed. Previous civilizations took centuries to fragment. We're doing it in decades. Technology collapses time. Scale. Belief is now global, instant, and performative. There is no local myth buffer anymore. And nervous system overload. People are not just confused, they are chronically dysregulated, exhausted, confused. That makes belief rigid, moralistic, and reactive. So the pattern is old, but the delivery system is unprecedented. So, are you like me and asking, is this the end of civilization? I'm not that extreme, but it is something that I am like, they've been talking about the dollar, American dollar collapsing. There was this Bitcoin thing going on. It's a lot. It is a lot. The corruption is finally being brought forth into the light. We're realizing how gridlocked we are in our government, all the blackmail, all the trafficking, all the corruption, endless freaking wars. They're profiting through the selling of war tools. I'm not going to say it on here. I might get a strike, but we are all pretty aware of reality, I think, at this point. So, what is ending? What actually is ending? It is not civilization as we know it. uh, so, what is ending? Centralized moral authority, sacred politics. There is no such thing necessarily. Mass belief, synchronization, and industrial skill trust. What emerges next is usually plural moral ecosystems, local legitimacy, embodied ethics, parallel institutions, and smaller, more coherent systems. So this is not apocalypse, it's decompression. And the alpha, I cannot wait to get to the alpha generation. There has been some scholars that are talking about the alpha generation. I am sitting here laughing my ass off. Like, why are they called the alpha generation? What makes them really alpha? Are they just like entitled? They just don't want to listen? Are they entrepreneurs? They're going to use technology. Like, what for? Yeah, but they are certainly not going to be aligned with decentralized authority. I'll put it that way. So, the key thing most people miss: civilizations don't collapse because people stop believing. They collapse because belief outpaces reality. When systems demand belief instead of earning trust, punish doubt instead of correcting error, and enforce morality instead of cultivating conscience, they hollow out. So, what we're seeing right now is belief being reclaimed from institutions and returned to individuals and community. That always looks like chaos at first. So, this isn't about left and right, it's about systems being asked to do jobs they were never built to do. That clarity is not cynicism, it's late cycle perception. Every civilization transition has people who stop believing before collapse, start building before permission, and speak in structure instead of slogans. So, the calm truth. So, after this, I'm going to break this down so you can understand the danger that we are all in combining religion and politics. So, the calm truth, let's go there first. This phase does not resolve through winning arguments, defeating enemies, restoring belief, or doubling down on ideology. It resolves through boundary restoration, decentralization of meaning, smaller scale trust loops, re-embodiment of ethics, and boring functional governance. So, let's talk about boring governance. Let's talk about what politics is actually about when it's functioning. Politics is about coordinating shared reality. Nothing more mystical than that. Let me make sure I've got my right note here. I've rewritten this so many times. All right, politics is not mystical. Politics exists to coordinate shared reality. At its core, politics answers 5 practical questions. How do we allocate shared resources, money, land, labor, and infrastructure? How do we make collective decisions when interests conflict? Laws, negotiation, and compromise. Talking about ethics here. How do we manage risk at scale, war, public safety, health, and environment? How do we distribute responsibility and accountability? Who decides, who enforces, who answers for failure? How do we update systems when conditions change? Adaptation, reform, and correction. That is it. Politics is logistics. Politics is systematic. Laws, regulations, ethics under constraint. It's a coordination tool, not a belief system. Religion was the is I know a lot of people are still religious. I get it. I am completely built upon the Catholic faith, and um religion, spirituality is the belief part, not politics. So, what politics is not supposed to be. Politics is not designed to supply meaning, identity, virtue, salvation, moral purity, belonging, and emotional regulation. Those functions require intimacy, embodiment, conscience, and cultural continuity. Politics cannot provide those things. When it tries, it breaks. The critical distinction. So hopefully it's starting to click. Morality lives in conscience, your own internal moral compass, your own compass within yourself. Family, culture, community, and lived behavior. Politics lives in systems, incentives, constraints, trade offs, imperfect choices. When morality is outsourced to politics, compromise feels like betrayal, starts getting more emotional. Policy becomes sacred, opponents become evil, talking about good and evil. Failure becomes heresy. That is when politics turns religious. Why people keep expecting politics to be more? Because other containers collapse first. When religion lost trust, community fragmented, work lost meaning, and family structures weakened, people turned to the last large structure left. Politics didn't seek this role. It absorbed it by default. Now, I go back and forth with that. I think there's a lot of well-intentioned human beings. We are human beings. It's hard to, a lot of people cannot control their emotions. We're very tribal by nature. Camps, the left, the right, it's a tribal thing. It's just not the proper container for those things. Now, politics carries grief it cannot heal, fear it cannot soothe, rage it cannot metabolize, and moral longing it cannot satisfy. And it collapses under the weight. So, politics is the management of shared constraints, not the source of truth, virtue, or meaning. Politics should coordinate reality, not define it. So, why this reframe matters. Once people understand this, disagreement stops feeling existential. Compromise becomes possible again. Authority can be questioned without moral collapse. Belief relaxes back into yourself. Politics becomes workable instead of sacred. That is the reset. We need proper scope, not extremism or disengagement. It's very, very important to educate yourself with what's going on in the world. Not picking a side is picking a side, FYI. Politics without belief. Politics was never meant to be sacred. I'm going to repeat that over and over. It was meant to be functional. It exists to manage shared constraints: land, resources, labor, risk, time, and consequences. Politics is a tool, not a truth, a process, not an identity, a system, not a soul. When politics asks for belief, something else has already failed. Belief belongs internally, meaning belongs culturally. Virtue belongs to behavior, and spirituality belongs to embodiment. Politics can only allocate, regulate, respond, and adapt. When we demand that it redeems, purifies, or defines who is good, it collapses into spectacle, coercion, and corruption. Compromises becomes betrayal, opposition becomes evil, policy becomes scripture, and leaders become idols. This is not civic engagement, it is displaced religion. A healthy political system is boring, procedural, revisable, and correctable. The moment politics becomes emotionally necessary, it becomes dangerous. The future is not depolitization, it is desacralization. So, how this was prevented before. I'm going to talk about the indigenous governance. Many indigenous systems explicitly separated spiritual authority, moral teaching, and political coordination. Why? Because they understood a core truth modern states forget. Power cannot be sacred and accountable at the same time. Authority was situational, not absolute. So these are the core principles. Leadership was temporary, task specific, and revocable. A war leader did not rule in peace. A spiritual leader did not control resources. Spirituality was embodied, not legislated. Spiritual law governed personal conduct and land stewardship, not punishment, enforcement, or resource allocation. Decision-making required presence. Councils required listening, silence, and actually facing those affected. Preventing abstraction and moral theater. Power did not centralize permanently. Authority circulated. Roles rotated, and identity did not fuse with power. The colonial fusion, the root problem. Colonial systems collapsed 3 roles into 1. Spiritual authority, righteousness, political authority, law and force, and economic authority, land and extraction. This creates moralized power, obedience framed as virtue, and governance beyond question. So the shift when politics became belief management. So when did this all start happening? When did religion blend into politics? Phase 1, the moral vacuum opens, 1960s through the 1970s. What broke first? Traditional religious authority. Key markers, 1960s cultural revolutions, civic rights, sexual revolution, widespread exposure of hypocrisy in churches, decline of shared moral narratives, loss of trust in institutional religion as moral arbiter. Result, religion loses its monopoly on meaning. No replacement structure is ready. This creates a moral vacuum, not secular clarity. Now, I talk about religion because I'm very spiritual. I know that I'm not new age. I am just like truth. Like, what is truth? You can find truth in many different systems. And really, you should probably study many different systems and come to your own conclusions. You shouldn't have, one authority telling you how to live your life. I don't know. It's very campy. I don't know. I can understand people still. It's a good structure to have. It really is. I mean, I loved the Catholic Church. It's a beautiful place. I love the people, the music, the environment. It's very ritualistic, honestly, and it's good. You practice it every day. You don't have to go to church to practice those things though. So that gets into the spiritual territory. I just wanted to make that clear. I understand. So, anyways, phase two, politics steps in the 1980s. This is where the handoff begins. Key markers, rise of values based politics, religion explicitly fused with political identity, good versus evil rhetoric normalized in governance, and national identity framed in moral terms. What changed? Politics stopped being about administration. It became about virtue alignment. This is the first belief capture. Phase three, media weaponizes belief in the 1990s. So, key markers 1996 Telecommunications Act, media consolidation, 24 hours news cycle expansion. I haven't watched mainstream in 20 years. Political messaging becomes constant, emotional framing over factual reporting. Politics becomes narrative driven, emotionally charged, and identity reinforcing. People no longer evaluate policy, they feel alignment. Belief becomes consumable. Phase 4, 9/11, the point of no return, 2001. This is an irreversible pivot. What changed overnight? Fear became permanent. Government demanded belief for security. Dissent framed as disloyalty. Surveillance normalized morally. The surveillance, oh my gosh. I'm not going to go there. War language merged with righteousness. Politics fully becomes faith based, fear regulated, and unquestionable in crisis. This is when belief replaces consent. Authority stopped needing to be right, only trusted. Dangerous. Phase 5, social media turns belief into identity, 2008 through 2015. This is the internalization phase. Key markers. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube scale rapidly. Social media. Algorithms reward outrage and certainty. Freaking knee jerk. People are complaining that I'm very monotone. And it's like, I'm a book writer. I'm extremely introverted. I love researching. I am like an extreme nerd, geeky type of person. And I'm not about theatrics, and I'm not here to be all crazy just to get views. That's not who I am. It's like good for the algorithm bringing people to you, but that is just whatever, I get it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Political identity becomes public performance, and moral signaling becomes social currency. Politics now functions like a church, a tribe, a confessional, and a battlefield. Belief is no longer private, it is who you are. Jeez, that drives me insane. I think it's just such a pet peeve. Like, virtue signaling. I just read some news online, and I want to go off the rails on fake religious people. There's so much corruption. It's nasty, people putting themselves in positions of authority, and they preach one thing and totally live their lives like the most disgusting, foul thing. Yeah, it's a problem. That also is a problem. Anywho, phase 6, total polarization 2016 through 2020. Belief hardens into faith warfare. Elections framed as existential. Opposing sides seem as immoral, not wrong, or just so freaking extreme. Facts stop resolving disagreement. Politics replaces religion, community, meaning, and belonging. This is when people stopped asking what works and started asking, who are you? The structural summary. So this is the core. Religion once handled meaning, morality, identity, ritual, and belonging. When it collapsed without being replaced, politics absorbed those functions. But politics is not built to hold them. So it becomes unstable, absolutist, punitive, performative, and violent in tone. Not because people are worse, but because the wrong system is holding belief. So the shift forward, what is the actual solution? The next phase is resegmentation. So we are between fragmentation and resegmentation. I don't think many people are seeing this section, this phase of our American civilization, empire. It's important. So the next phase is resegmentation. Spirituality becomes embodiment again. Morality is, more about behavior. Morality, your own internal behavior, even when people are not looking. Meaning back into community, and politics back into logistics. That's how systems stabilize. So how we actually shift it. Structural, not ideological. Return politics to governance, not belief. Build trust through accountable behavior, not persuasion. Yeah. Remove incentives for virtue signaling. Rebuild legitimacy locally and visibly. Create civic rituals that aren't ideological. Teach episiotomy like survival training. Hold grief so it doesn't weaponize, and replace outrage with discernment at the personal level. Now, I actually broke this down better in my other note. Let me just scroll down here real quick. I'm so tired. I need to hit the sack. I kind of feel like making this into a new video. Another video. All right, so let me see where I'm at. All right, so I'm going to break this down a little bit more. I didn't even bring a drink out here with me. My throat's killing me. I need to turn my heater off. All right, so I do want to spend a little bit more time breaking this down because it is important. So, what needs to actually shift? Politics is currently doing 4 jobs at once: meaning, morality, belonging, and safety. So meaning, why life matters; morality, who is good or bad; belonging, who is us; and safety, what protects us. When politics holds those jobs, it becomes religion. So the shift is politics returns to governance, meaning returns to community, morality returns to your conscience, and safety returns to systems that actually work. So stop trying to win belief. Win belief. Belief, there are certain personality types that it's not about truth for them, it's about belief. If you can control what people believe, the best liars, it's the it's the manipulation, the emotional guilting, you can really screw people up with that. I can't stand I'm all about truth. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you what to believe. I'm studying history, I'm studying patterns. It's about truth for me, not trying to like make up things or whatever, get people all emotional so that they believe whatever. I don't know. I'm not into that at all. So stop trying to win belief, build trust conditions. Belief systems don't change because they were refuted. They change when people experience repeatedly truth without punishment. God, that reminds me of all the censorship. accountability without humiliation, repair without erasure, and competence without propaganda. So the goal isn't persuasion. That's what I was trying to say. I'm not here trying to persuade people. Like, if you're here, you're here. Like, I'm not that. Extroverts are more of like the pushing out of like trying to control people's thinking and beliefs and emotions. And I'm an extreme introvert. I'm just here for the knowledge. It's a thing. All right. So it's credible behavior at scale. It drives me nuts when people are like all up in my face. All right, so reduce the incentive for virtue signaling. Virtue signaling thrives when status is earned through alignment display, outrage is rewarded, attention is currency, and there's no cost for hypocrisy. Shift incentives by rewarding measurable outcomes, not slogans. Making conflicts of interest visible. Jesus, follow the money. Making conflicts of interest visible, adding real consequences for corruption. It's just, I've been so deep into Turning Point. I've been deep into the Epstein files. I'm just like, I go there with everything, and it's so frustrating. Designing systems where leaders can't hide behind narrative. In other words, truth must be revealed, which it is, and it's great. So great. Rebuild small scale legitimacy. Big institutions feel fake because they are too far from consequences. The fastest way to rebuild trust is local accountability, visible feedback loops, and small communities where behavior is known, getting involved in your own community. This is why mutual aid works, community led solutions work. Local governance can regain legitimacy faster than national narratives. Now, I'm going to pause here. This is going way longer than I want to, but small scale legitimacy. So, local accountability. Now, I just did my millennial video on the politics and war. I have uploaded that video already. And I like pulled out my research papers from college back in 2007, 8, 9. I think 2008 and 9. And I was really worried and concerned about I had a lot of very close friends that were in the military. And specifically, there was a Marine that was having issues with the VA, getting into the VA. The wait lists were long. There wasn't a VA. It took about an hour of travel just to get there. It was terrible. And so I just started researching and researching, and it's like it was a mass scale thing. And I was talking about that 6 years before it was like dealt with politically. It's just like the AI thing, the deep fake AI. The only federal like political law we have on AI right now is obviously like the sexual deep fake, putting someone's face on the porn or whatever. I don't know, but that's obviously illegal. And then politics, like you can't make a political fake AI video in a certain time frame of an election or whatever. That is it. That's like the only laws currently dealing with deep fake AI. And it's concerning. And so I literally wrote a 70-page book and looked into every single state. What are they drafting? We should be able to protect ourselves, and I'm concerned about the younger generations. They're not going to know certain things are fake. What about content creators? I am extremely cautious, and like my feed, like I don't have any social media. I only have YouTube. I pay so I don't have to listen to ads. I haven't watched mainstream in 20 years. And it just reminds me, like, of all the things that I've studied, vaccines, for example. I wrote a book about that 12 freaking years ago. Just like with the VA, they didn't do anything for 6 years legally, trying to write in laws of having vets able to go to regular doctors more locally if there's a long wait. I mean, vets were dying because they couldn't get into the VA. I was just so upset. I'm still upset, and I was actually talking to a coworker today, and he's actually was a Marine, and he told me his wife works in a VA right now. She's a nurse, and he updated me with the laws that were put in place in 2014, 2016. They, made it better, whatever. And it's just, I started studying into vaccines 12 years ago, and then COVID happened, and I was already like in the no of you can get an exemption. Most people had no freaking clue you could get an exemption and thought that they were being absolutely forced to take a shot, and or else they would lose their jobs. I know many people that lost their jobs because they didn't want to. I just keep like, I feel like I've been ahead of it's not, I'm not trying to, like, toot my own horn. I'm very humble, but it's like getting involved and speaking out. I really truly it's hard, I get it, like the vaccine thing. I was kind of preachy about GMOs, the vaccines for a little bit, and then everyone was, like, emotionally triggered. I am to the point finally, I've finally crossed over a threshold of no matter what you do in life, you can work 12 hours a freaking day for 12 years straight, raise a child by yourself, and still get absolutely criticized to death by people that don't work as much, don't have kids. Like, no matter what you do, you're going to be criticized. And I finally crossed over that threshold of not caring. Like, I just keep seeing this pattern of doing research 6 to 10 to 12 years prior, and I wish I would have pushed it harder because more people would have been aware. I got into criminal justice. I was mad about the freaking I was mad about the prison, you know, transition. There's no psychological help there. You're putting a criminal in with other criminals to become a better criminal. There's no transition period for for military people coming back into civilian life. Same thing with prison people back into population. There's just so much that I've researched into, and it's so absolutely frustrating. So I'm just the only reason why I'm telling you this here is because local accountability, the local on the ground, you personally in your community, the people you know are going to care first about what actually needs to be done. And it truly doesn't take that many people to get legislation going. It really doesn't. And I'm just like making it a point to tell you that because from my own experience, I honestly wish I would have pushed things more instead of getting like discouraged and then disengaging because I ended up switching careers multiple times and then I ended up getting into accounting and now I'm blue collar. Like I played it safe, so to speak. I mean, I work hard, and it's very important that you know that you do have power. Just 2, 3 people can really get the ball moving. So don't ever forget that. It's extremely important. Don't ever downplay that. I'm telling you that because of my own experience with seeing legislation moving so slowly, and I was 12 years ahead of I don't know what it is. I'm just like I just love studying and I see patterns and I care deeply about human beings. So anyways, local governance can regain legitimacy faster than national narratives. Um, where was I? Create public rituals that are not ideological. Humans need rituals. If religion collapses, politics will steal the role. And I know rituals can be triggering. I know that word is triggering. It can be. I get it. But picture yourself as a Catholic kneeling, standing, singing, communion. That's ritualistic. Lighting a candle, washing your hands, like brushing your teeth, that's ritualistic. You do it every single day. So just don't get triggered by that word. So we replace ideological ritual with embodied civic ritual. Community service that is not branded. So that can be a ritual thing that you do. Community service that is not branded. You don't do community service and then post it all over Facebook for kudos or whatever, getting back into your morality, not branded, whatever. Grief ceremonies for collective loss, war, overdoses, and shooting. Grief ceremonies for collective loss. That's a really rough one for me. I haven't cried my entire life up until this year. I've done a lot of generational Native American genealogy. I've done a lot of work with very deep wounds within myself, and I have certainly done a lot of grieving and allowed myself to grieve. It's extremely hard for me to allow myself to grieve. And so I'm not necessarily the person to talk to, but I do. After this year, I certainly know how important it is to move those emotions. It helps heal. It really is truly healing. And it's something so simple. It's not simple for me, but just letting it out there and go can be simple. And so, making that a thing again because it's important. Rights of return for veterans, like I was saying. Rights of return. Rights of return. That is an indigenous thing. They understood. There needs to be a transition period. Allow people grace. Show vets, elders, God, Jesus, even elders, the lack of respect for elders, the lack of respect for women, the lack of respect for everything, just lack of respect in general is wild to me, honestly. Seasonal land-based gatherings, restorative justice forums that prioritize repair over spectacle. This is indigenous logic returning. Ritual holds the nervous system so politics doesn't have to. Get back into religion if need be. It's whatever yoga, get into yoga. That helps. Get back into your body and your heart and your mind and your community. All right. Number 6, teach episiotomy like it's survival because it is. The modern crisis is not misinformation necessarily. I think we're over that hump. If you know where to get good information and study, we're over that hump, I believe. It's no shared method for truth making. Shift requires media literacy taught early. So, media literacy taught early. Mainstream isn't always, the best avenue to get your news. Media literacy would be deep fake AI. Yeah, there's a lot to that. So incentive literacy, who benefits, follow the money. Statistical literacy, risk, correlation, and base rates. History literacy, how propaganda works. I'm going to keep my mouth shut, but propaganda, people need to understand, the younger generations need to understand propaganda, how to do real research and critical thinking, honestly. All right, emotional literacy, how fear hijacks belief. not as education, but as immune system training. Now, I could just go on and on. I'm exhausted. I need to get off here. So, heal moral injury at scale. A lot of political extremism is unprocessed moral injury. Betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, loss, and distrust. People latch onto ideology because it gives certainty, moral clarity, belonging, and enemies. So the shift is create containers for grief and rage that are not weaponized. Normalize speaking the pain without recruiting others into hate. When grief is held, scapegoats lose their fuel. Number 8, practical personal shift. On an individual level, the move is simple but hard. Replace outrage with discernment. I'm very monotone, but I'm extremely discerning, okay? I'm not going to sit here and blow up and be extremely animated and outrage. Nah, that's just not me. I'm just laughing. Sorry. Identity performance. Moving from identity performance to embodied ethics. What side are you on to what actually works? And belief warfare to repair work. Nervous system polarity repair work. I am hard and heavy on that. This is the sovereign posture. You don't outsource morality to a tribe. That's a rough run, especially if you're an extrovert and need a whole bunch of people. Anyways, you don't let fear decide your worldview. You build what you wish to exist. The deep truth, politics calms when people are regulated. A dysregulated population seeks certainty, enemies, punishments, and saviors. A regulated population seeks competence, transparency, repair, limits, and truth over theater. So, yes, the shift is political, but it begins as a nervous system revolution. Not necessarily rebellion, but regulation. All right, so in closing, we shift politics by removing it from the job of being religion. Build trust through accountability, move meaning back into community, and restore embodiment so conscience doesn't need ideology. All right, so I probably rambled on. I am exhausted. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's extremely important. I am just I'm not going to not speak anymore. I've just I've done a lot of work and I truly do care about our future as a collective, the younger generations. People just do not think generationally anymore. It's very sad. And yeah, so I see a lot of movement going on. It's great, and I'm here for it. And the millennials are very activated. I appreciate all of you, every generation, every human that's activated. Thank you for stepping up and stepping out and saying what needs to be said. It's very important. So we're all adding what we can, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So, anywho's, thank you for your likes and subscribes and your comments. I deeply appreciate them all with my whole heart. It literally, I have this fire inside of me that is stronger than me. I am only a human being. I can only do so much, but I do work hard. I work extremely hard in every aspect of my life, and it just lights my whole heart and soul up to see the just people talking about things that actually matter, to be honest, instead of gossip and drama and whatever. I'm very appreciative of people that care about things that are actually important. Anyways, take care and I'll see you in the next video.